So I am 1000% sure that by now you are aware that Hollywood Brown has been injured last night in the Jaguars preseason game. So I'm not going to just go over the same type of stuff. I'm going to try to introduce some alternative talking points on the issue and maybe start a little bit of conversation about what it means. So I stole these quotes from Arrowhead Pride from Peter Sweeney, an article written by him, and really it's an Andy Reid quote, but it was transcribed by Pete. So this is what Andy Reid had to say on the injury. Hollywood Brown has the same thing Tyreek Hill had down here in Jacksonville, actually in 2019. Started Reid, a sternoclavicular post-dislocation. They take Brown to the hospital. They're checking on him. They're working on that as we speak. I think he'll miss some time. We'll just see where it's at. I'm not going to go any further right now. We'll let you know more later on. Now, obviously, always in situations like this, it's maybe ill-advised to speculate. I don't know where the line is between speculation and analysis, right? I'm not going to speculate. I'm not going to throw all sorts of numbers out there. If this is this, we're just going to put hypotheticals out there. If this is the scale of injury that seems to be most commonly associated with this type of injury, which it might not be. It might be that he is back on the practice field come Monday, come Tuesday, come Wednesday. It might be that he is okay to go lickety-split. It might be that this is an 8-week injury. I don't know. It appears that oftentimes this is about a 4-week injury. That would put him to return for week 2 or week 3, which means he would miss the Ravens. Almost definitely he will miss week 1. He would be back for week 2 with the Bengals or week 3 with the Falcons. I forgot my end parentheses. How dare I be so haphazard? So here's what this means, guys. The big free agent signing for the Kansas City Chiefs is going to miss probably one or both of the biggest games of the schedule, of the regular season schedule. We've talked a lot in the past few weeks, sort of ironically, I guess, at this point, because of all of the injuries in training camp that we have seen, which aren't really all that odd for training camp, about how oftentimes the Kansas City Chiefs will utilize injuries as a blessing in disguise. Not really by design, but somebody was injured Nick Bolton's rookie season. Nick Bolton was thrust into action before the Kansas City Chiefs may have figured that he was ready for it, and they got their multi-year starting linebacker out of it. Oftentimes, those little things seem to pop up for the Kansas City Chiefs, and guys, the Kansas City Chiefs are going to need a couple wide receivers to lean on against the Ravens. The Kansas City Chiefs are going to need a couple wide receivers to lean on against the Bengals. The Chiefs beating the Ravens in the playoffs last season was, if you ask the national media, absolutely mad. The Chiefs were supposed to lose that game. The Chiefs were supposed to lose that game handily. They did not. That game never felt in question. The differences between that roster for the Chiefs and the Week 1 roster, if Hollywood Brown is out, is going to be the Chiefs will have lost L'Jarius Sneed on defense, the guy who forced the fumble at the goal line, and the Chiefs will be plus, or that's when they lost Charles Omenihu was in that game, right? So the Chiefs will be plus Jared Wiley and Xavier Worthy on offense. There's no other additions besides the left tackle. And in week 1 against the Ravens, who is to say that he will be better than Donovan Smith, Kingsley Suamataia, or Wanye Morris? Who's to say that they will perform better than did Donovan Smith last season? Now, I want to do a bit of a roll call for the Kansas City Chiefs at wide receiver because we're saying here that the Chiefs are going to be the same Chiefs that took on the Ravens in the Super Bowl minus one of their better defensive players in L'Jarius Sneed. So, if that wide receiver group is no different than it was last year, what does the wide receiver group look like even when Hollywood Brown comes back? Because I'm going to get into a little bit of roster composition theory coming up. Well, when you look at this wide receiver group, you have Hollywood Brown, maybe number 1, number 2 at the position. He's injured right now. That's an injury concern. You have Rashee Rice, who throws up a lot. Now, that's not an injury concern, I understand, but he does throw up an awful lot. Maybe there's something going on there. I'm just speculating on that part. Number 3, you have Xavier Worthy, who weighs 165 pounds with rocks in his pockets. That is going to be, I know he's a tough guy. I know he doesn't really have injury concerns. He had one, I can't remember if it was a finger or an elbow in college that affected his sophomore season. I know that. That's fine. College isn't the NFL. The safeties in the NFL can be 220 pounds and run a 4.3 40-yard dash. Being 165 pounds is going to be a permanent concern of injury. You have Justin Watson, who injured his foot just a week ago. You have Kadarius Toney, who is injured now. You have Sky Moore, who is Sky Moore, and that remains kind of the same thing as an injury. You have Justin Ross, who started his NFL career injured for an entire season after going undrafted because of maybe football-ending conditions medically. You have McCole Hardman, who has a bit of an injury history, has whatever was going on last year in New York, and then his level of awareness may in fact be an injury. And then we get to Nico Remigio, who is good to go. This wide receiver group as a whole has injury concerns, has real injury concerns, and it's not the end of the world, right? Would I rather have... So you have last year's wide receiver core plus Xavier Worthy plus Hollywood Brown, hopefully eventually, plus you have Rashee Rice as he ended last season versus how he started last season. Just with these 3 names, you have a better wide receiver group than you had last season for the majority of the year. That said, you're not talking about the majority of the season. You're talking about the Ravens and the Bengals weeks 1 and 2. Very important games, even though they only count as 1. Very important for draft positioning. So, roster composition. With all of these injury concerns, in my opinion, you almost have to carry 7 wide receivers. How do you carry 7 wide receivers? You have to only carry 9 offensive linemen because you're only going to carry 2 quarterbacks. And between running backs and tight ends, one is going to be a 3-man group. One is going to be a 4-man group. It looks as if they really enjoy having a fullback on the roster. Carson Steele was one of the highlights of the week 1 loss, the preseason week 1 loss to the Jaguars. So I think he makes the roster. So I think the Chiefs are going to keep 4 running backs and 3 tight ends. For running backs, you're looking at Isaiah Pacheco, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Deneric Prince, and Carson Steele. Louis Rees-Zammit, I don't know what you do with him. I don't think he's on the roster. Tight end. You're not going to carry Jaquarius Spivey. You're not going to carry Irv Smith. You're not going to carry Baylor Cupp. You're carrying Travis Kelce, Jared Wiley, Noah Gray. That's it. You don't have room for injuries there. You don't have room for injuries on the offensive line because you've already had injuries pop up at your wide receiver core. That gives you 7 wide receivers. Now, Brett Veach is cursed with free agents. Brett Veach in the draft is the best Kansas City Chiefs general manager I've ever seen. Not terribly good competition until you get to John Dorsey, but best I've ever seen. But when he's signing players, the bad luck this guy has. Sammy the Hammy was hamstrung. Sammy Watkins could not get on the field. Charles Omenihu was suspended and is now injured. Orlando Brown was a permanent goober. I just had to throw that in there to get a dig at Orlando Brown. Tyrann Mathieu came to Kansas City in order to see his career sort of fall off. I mean, he was not in Kansas City what he had been. So, to take things back to a serious note for just a moment, can the Kansas City Chiefs turn this into a positive? Patrick Mahomes and Hollywood Brown do not have a whole lot of work in together yet. Would have been good to see them get on the same page, would have been good to see them build that chemistry. However, Patrick Mahomes is a professional's professional. Hollywood Brown seems to be a professional's professional. They are going to find a way to make it work during the season. They will not get the extra preseason reps. So, who will? In my opinion, this becomes very important to Xavier Worthy. Xavier Worthy needs to go ahead and get all of the reps that were assumed by Hollywood Brown in the preseason. If Patrick Mahomes and Xavier Worthy can get on the same page. Now, here's the irony to this. Andy Reid said in the post-game presser that apparently the pass that was thrown on which Hollywood Brown was made the reception and was injured was supposed to go to Xavier Worthy. That was supposed to be an Xavier Worthy play. Instead, it was a check down to Hollywood Brown. Hollywood Brown catches the ball, gets tackled, falls on his shoulder. You've got a clavicle injury. Xavier Worthy needs to be taking all of these reps. Here's the thing. Somebody moves up because of that. Somebody has to move up the roster to take the Xavier Worthy reps. Who is that? I'm not completely positive that the depth chart we saw for the Jaguars game is going to be the depth chart that we see beginning this week. Sky Moore was invisible. It just is what it is. Sky Moore was invisible. Now, I don't know how many reps Sky Moore got. We don't have those numbers yet. Sky Moore was invisible for the majority of last season. In my opinion, the Kansas City Chiefs are now in dire straits for figuring out what will work. They do not have the time to mess around with Kadarius Toney. They do not have the time to mess around with Sky Moore. You have 2 players who are producing in preseason. You have 2 players who have produced in preseason when they were given their opportunities. Those 2 players, Justin Ross and Nico Remigio. I have gotten pushback in the comments that Justin Ross has done basically bupkis on Sundays. Sky Moore has 2 250-yard seasons. Sky Moore has 2 250-yard seasons while getting that type of playing time. Sky Moore has not cashed in on the playing time that he has had. Sky Moore, for example, in his rookie season, 313 reps to produce 250 receiving yards. In his sophomore campaign, Sky Moore, 495 reps to drop 6 yards to 244. So you have, let me write this down. I am sorry. I did not look these up before hitting the record button. I did not know I was going to get to this talking point. 313 and 495. No, Justin Ross has not produced on Sundays in the NFL. Justin Ross last season played just 136 reps. 136 reps to produce 53 receiving yards. That is, let me see, per rep, 53 divided by 136, Justin Ross was good for 0.38. Justin Ross was good for 0.39 yards per rep. On 495 reps, Sky Moore produced 244 yards. Sky Moore was good for 0.49 yards per rep, with many more reps. Not the outcome I was expecting. I still think Justin Ross offers a dynamic playmaking capability. Justin Ross can climb the ladder. Justin Ross can go back corner. Justin Ross can do many things we simply have not seen from Sky Moore on any occasions in the NFL. First team, second team, preseason, regular season, Super Bowl, whatever it is, we have not seen that from Sky Moore. So, I think we're going to see a shakeup. We talked a little bit in this morning's video that the Kansas City Chiefs have a roster spot available after McCade Mettauer apparently tore his ACL last night. The Kansas City Chiefs have tons of wide receivers in camp already. I do not think that it would surprise me to see one more added. The Chiefs may have their backs up against the proverbial wall, looking at everything that's going down with their wide receiver core and trying to make sure they have the players necessary to actually make the run they want to run. They want to go to the Super Bowl. I was looking up available wide receivers in free agency. I think all of these articles are outdated. Let me see if this is a list of names. Does not come up. Everything looks to be old. Michael Thomas, Hunter Renfrow. Is Hunter Renfrow still out there? Corey Davis, Julio Jones, Alex Erickson, Lynn Bowden, Randall Cobb, Robbie Chosen, Richie James, Jakeem Grant, and Damiere Byrd. I believe those names may still be free agent wide receivers. It would not shock me to see one of these names brought in. Michael Thomas, I don't think. Hunter Renfrow, is he really still a free agent out there? Anyway, I think that something like this, you don't want to overreact to it, right? You don't want to see a guy goes down for a couple weeks and all of a sudden you're flipping tables and all of this. But this wide receiver group is precarious. This wide receiver group is on pins and needles. And at any given time, who knows when Rashee Rice is going to start throwing up again. Anyway, that's all I have for this video. If you like or appreciate what it is that I do on the channel, hitting the like button really does help me out, as it tells YouTube to share this video with other Kansas City Chiefs fans. And if you find yourself here by chance but not design, the Kansas City Chiefs are the only thing I talk about on this channel, dropping multiple videos every single week. And I hope to have you back for the next one.